7:22, Shane Warner Morning Show. Get back into the David Petraeus scandal. Head of the CIA resigns after sleeping with his biographer, which is probably not a... Now that if you have read that biography, you think you got a fair portrayal of the guy, knowing that the author was sleeping with him? 7:22, Shane Warner Morning Show. In the meantime, we're going to talk, as so many other people have, since Tuesday. It's been almost a week since Czar Obama won a second term, and there's been a lot of introspection on the part of the Republican Party, of people who supposedly know what the party needs to do to change their losing ways. And one of the issues that keeps coming up because of the exit polling data is that Republicans lost handily with Latino voters. And the trend has not been going the way that Republicans would like since George W. Bush got 44% of the Latino vote. Duke Machado is with us here in studio. As you can tell by his Hispanic surname, he is an expert on such issues. Duke, how are you, man?
Right. Well, that qualifies me.
Exactly. Well, that I joke about that. So let's start with that, because the idea or the thought that Latinos are a homogenous voting bloc is part of the problem, but at the same time, it's almost true. 93% of blacks went for Obama and 70% of Latinos. So let's start there. How do you reconcile that, what you and I have talked about on this show before, that Latinos aren't just immigration voters, they're far more diverse, there are other issues they care about, but then they go 70% for Obama?
Well, I'm going to tell you, the bottom line in this election is that the Hispanics were spoken to. They were acknowledged, and their issues were addressed. And although we don't agree with how they were addressed, the appearance was that the Democrat Party was going to try to solve their issues. Now, one of my blogs I wrote that I had spoken to countless elected officials and party leadership, and they would always tell me, well, Duke, it's not going to come down to immigration. Yes, it's important, but, economy and jobs. And, when you avoid dealing with an issue, the appearance is you don't care. And so that's where I think we really lost. That's where we went bad. When
you say we, you're referring to Republicans in that sense. You are. Right. I guess I should have introduced you in a more appropriate and formal manner. The auxiliary group is GOPisForMe. You were the one who organized our primary debate back in March with the Republican candidates here locally. And you were also very active in trying to get the state Republican Party more involved in Hispanic issues and more outreach into the Hispanic community, and block walking and knocking on doors and doing some of those things that you do to reach out to Hispanics and try to get them on board with a conservative message. It hasn't worked in general. I'm not saying your efforts, but that's what you acknowledge, is that in general, 70% of Latinos are voting for Democrat, voted for Obama. So you mentioned in your blog, and you just mentioned it, that Hispanics were talked to in this election. But before, you and I have talked and said, well, it's not just immigration. Has that changed? Is immigration the buzzword that gets you in the door?
It's one of those things where if you don't bring it up and you don't talk about it, you avoid it, like what we've done. It just creates a perception that you're not interested. And, are you going to talk to someone? Are you going to gain the support of someone who doesn't even want to talk about issues that are maybe not important to you, but maybe your cousin? And so that's where we missed the boat. It's not something that people don't go around and say, I'm an illegal immigrant and I need help. That's not how it works. You've got most Hispanics I know someone who's illegal. Most non-Hispanics know someone who's illegal. So it is an issue. I don't know why the party. Well, I think I know why the party hasn't addressed it. Primarily, I believe it's fear of offending people. It's the only thing I can think of. They don't want to go down this slippery slope for fear of losing their far right base, which in a primary you got to have. And like what Romney did and some of the other presidential candidates, excuse me, during the primary, they danced around it, and then some of them even, stepped in it. Mm-hmm. They went all off the reservation with, let's send everybody home. Let's put them in the back of the line, send them back to the home country. Let's self-deport. That was what stuck. And if I'm a voter and that is an issue that is of some concern, that's going to weigh heavily.
Let's look forward here. Duke Machado's with us this morning here on Newstalk 1230. If the Republicans want to change those percentages, mm-hmm. and if we see an increasing number of the increasing percentage of the electorate, increasing percentage of the population that is Hispanic, you came up with some ideas, but the problem is that if you put forth specifics, then you open yourself up to criticism. And as you said, you risk alienating either the more conservative or the more moderate. I've always said this, whatever the issue, if you're liberal, the answer is more government. And if you just get a little bit more government, mm-hmm. then that's still better than reducing government. Yeah. But if you're conservative, there's a difference between where you increase and where you decrease government. It's a much more difficult argument to make. Same thing with immigration. If you're a liberal, you just say DREAM Act, knowing that eventually mm-hmm. you're going to get to citizenship. Conservatives, is not that easy.
Well, and that's the thing, because immediately people came out and said, well, we don't have to sacrifice our values in order to gain Hispanic support, meaning we don't have to support the DREAM Act mm-hmm. in order to do this. Well, here's the deal. Number one, the Hispanic community is not going to be concerned with what we have to say until they trust us. So that's, in all the things that I've written, we have to develop that trust. And how do we do that? We have to be genuinely concerned and interested in advancing the Hispanic community. We have to be there. See, Democrats are there. Mm-hmm. We're not. So that's one thing. Second, we have to get we have an illegal immigration problem. We do. They're already here. We're not going to self-deport, and we're not going to round everyone up. So what are all alternatives? Mm-hmm. One of them is to document those who are here. It's a safety issue. If we don't know who's living down the street from us and what kind of criminals are possibly in this mix of illegal immigrants, how are we going to be able to secure our neighborhoods? Mm-hmm. It's a security issue. We need to document people.
That I only have about 30 seconds left. That sounds like the first step. What I hear coming from you, the first step for conservatives, the Republican Party, is to acknowledge that the 11, 12 million people who are here aren't going anywhere.
Right.
And then you have to develop a way to deal with those people before you can do anything else. And until you acknowledge that, until you get rid of the deport part of the platform, you're saying the Republicans aren't going to move forward.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a starting point. Duke Machado, not a starting point some people are going to want to hear, but a starting point nonetheless.
It's reality.
Well, that was the next thing. Whether you like it or not, that might be irrelevant. It's whether you acknowledge it or not. Duke Machado, we always appreciate the time. Good talking to you.
All right, thanks.
All right, Duke Machado with us, 7:30 here at the Shane Warner Morning Show. Right back. All right, 7:34. I tell you what we're going to do, and sometime in the near future, because I can hear them now. I know that several of the calls to the listener line over the last 10 minutes since we had Duke Machado on talking about immigration and the Republican Party, I can almost guarantee what they are saying, and that's exactly why we brought Duke on and why we're talking about these issues, because the people are going to say, some people are going to say, well, wait a minute, that's amnesty, what he's talking about. Recognizing that there are 11, 12 million people here who came here illegally and aren't going to leave, which means you have to do something with them, that anything short of deportation or them leaving is amnesty. So that's the question. That's the first thing. is anything short of deportation the same in your book as amnesty? And if the answer to that is yes, if your answer is, well, yeah, if they don't leave and if they get to stay somehow, some way after they broke the law, that by definition is amnesty. If that's your position, and if that's the position of enough people in the Republican Party, then there is no hope of trying to recoup some of that Latino vote.